Hey there. Welcome to the F1 starting grid. Barry and Micah with you today. Unfortunately, Chad couldn't join us for this recording. And hey, we just want to apologize. We've been off the air, off our podcast for a few weeks now. Just various things going on in our personal lives and our work situations. But we're back. We'll have Chad with us again next week. We'll do a race recap after Canada. So we've missed a few races here in
It's
the
been a
in
while, yeah.
right. We did do a recap from Miami, which was, I don't know, seemed like a little bit of a yawner. It wasn't too exciting of a race, but it's been good racing this season. And then we did record a podcast right before Imola, and
And then it
before
became
we
no
even had a
more.
chance, we were before we even having a chance to post it, the race was canceled. So we just
Yeah.
kind of were like, let's just scratch that. And then of course Monaco in between that and the Spanish Grand Prix. So lots going on in the Formula One world. Micah, how you doing? What are your thoughts on the season so far?
Oh, I'm doing great. I think these back-to-back weekends were like spoiled me so much. We had, three. It ended up, being two back-to-back because Imola was canceled, but we were spoiled for Monaco and then Spain. And I was so excited every weekend where, that in-between weekend where you're like it's a Sunday or it's a Monday and you're like, oh, is it a race weekend? No, it's not a race weekend. And so you're kind of bummed because you have to wait another week and you're like, all right, all this buildup, all this excitement. And that for me is what I love. I love the buildup. I love the excitement. Yes, we haven't been here in a little bit. Um, I know Imola, really unfortunate what was going on in Imola in that area and the flooding that was happening. And we really, really were thinking about that community while that was happening. And it was 100% right on the FIA to cancel that race. That was
Right.
100% the right call. For Miami, while the race might have been, I feel like there was a few unexpected things. They
Sure. Sure.
There was rain in the middle, so that was kind of crazy. That was fun.
Hmm.
But really the big talking point of the race wasn't even the race, it was the qualifying. And that had to do with Max Verstappen's qualifying that was incredible. I mean, people are saying that it's one of the greatest qualifying runs they've ever seen. He
Sure.
was down 2/10 in the last sector and was still able to get that
Yeah.
podium position from Aston Martin from Fernando Alonso, and you're just like, wow, like he is on a roll, on a roll, on a roll, and it is
Yeah.
not stopping.
No, I
No
mean
matter
that's
what
it's like
race.
we just like addressed the elephant in the room right
Right.
away, right? Like Max's dominance this
Yeah.
season is, it's history being written.
Right.
And he's got a long way to go to match, Schumacher and Hamilton and some of the other greats, Senna.
Right.
It just as far as the numbers go, but I think as far as just his tenacity,
Hmm.
even
Hmm.
coming into Canada this weekend, his comments are, he's just got room to improve. He's fighting to
Right.
get better,
Right.
and everyone's like how,
Right.
man, you're at the peak, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see what he's doing. I think even with the Spanish Grand Prix, it was a great race. I just as a side note, I loved the taking out of that last chicane and just making that
Absolutely.
big long
Absolutely.
straight. It made that the straight line speed down that start finish straight
Hmm.
was a lot
Hmm.
higher. And I don't know,
The
I
deg
just
was a lot higher as well for
it
that
was
because of that. And
changed
that
the
made it so unpredictable with the tire
huge.
strategy.
But
Really
yeah,
did.
but Max, of course, it was what, first in P1, P2,
Yep.
P3,
Yep.
top of the grid for qualifying,
Fastest lap.
fastest lap, and he won the race. I
I
mean,
I
so
love
just
the fastest lap when he did that. They're like, "Hey, you have track limits. So
right,
please
right,
don't go out." For those
right.
that don't know, like track limits, if you hit it multiple times, you could incur a penalty. That's not a good thing, right?
Yeah,
And they're like, team is saying, "Hey, Max, do not go fastest lap. You do not have the threshold to be able to get fastest lap
right,
because
right.
if you incur a penalty, it's gonna stink." And
And
then
he
he
did it
goes and he's
anyway.
like, "No, I'm
uh,
gonna do fastest lap
and keep it
and
in the limits.
keep it in the limit." And
Yeah,
I think one of the things that's so incredible to watch Max is he knows his car so well. He's in tune with his car. He knows the limits. Where we're seeing other drivers maybe not in tune. And yeah, we're coming into it with other teams like Mercedes coming into their own with the change of the development of their side pods, and they're changing up a little bit to get more in tune. Max seems to
Yeah,
be
yeah, there,
so one with his car
yeah,
that
no,
he
for sure.
knows every little thing that it's going to happen. And if something's wrong, which we can see like on the radio where something's not shifting right or something's not happening correctly, he knows that car so well.
Right,
And that driver car pairing, I
is
think, like you
amazing,
said, is
amazing.
history being written right now.
No, it is. And you know what's incredible is, even when he'll come on the radio and say, hey, something's not right, car's not shifting right, the balance isn't right,
Right.
and all the engineers are looking at the computers and going, well, everything looks good on our end.
Right.
And I'm like, I mean, it's the same. Like in my car, I know when something's not right. Even if the check engine light doesn't come on, I'm like, something's not right. And to that greater degree, that Max just has that feel for his
Hmm.
car, where every little minutia, every little thing is just,
Right.
he can sense it. But great performance from him. Uh, Again, Spanish Grand Prix, Sergio Perez had a sucky qualifying, ended up starting in 11th, but in true Perez form, charged through the pack, ended up with a P4 finish.
Right.
And
Right.
if the race had been a few more laps, he might have even got that podium. But I think the big thing out of the Spanish Grand Prix was the second and third place for Mercedes.
Mercedes podium.
Uh,
Yeah.
Huge.
Hmm.
What the side pod change really made a big difference for them, and
Yeah.
that's a significant change to make, at this point. But obviously what they had before wasn't working. Of
Yeah.
course, there's been all of the conversation about the floorboards and how the different teams have
Absolutely.
designed their
Absolutely.
floorboards, and every time they have to lift a car off the track, everyone's kind of spying out
Looking and
what
seeing. Yeah.
what did they do, because that's the one part of the car that other teams can't see. And so,
Right.
just the razor thin margins
Right.
for
Right.
development and engineering in all of this. But yeah, Mercedes, uh good race, good
Good
results
race.
for
Yeah.
them. I don't think Fernando was too happy. He definitely uh would have liked to have another podium. So uh it's been a great season for him. Did you hear that he had said that he's not satisfied with not being on a podium again this season? Like, he's like,
I love that.
every race
I love that
will
so
be a
much.
podium.
I love that. I love that tenacity and that mindset. And that really is like champion set mindset where if Lewis back in the day when Lewis was winning, if he would get second, you would see him visibly disappointed. If you see Max Verstappen ever get anything other than first, he's visibly disappointed. And that's the same champion winning mindset, right? Fernando Alonso is already a champion, right? He's already won the championship before, and to see him with that mindset where like now he has a car, right? Where the actual of what a driver wants and what a driver can actually do is together, where you have other drivers that are, you know, we love our Haas, but my goodness, that
Right.
it's not where we want it to be. And even Williams, we're like, it's not where we want it to be. The AlphaTauri
or
with Yuki
or
Tsunoda
or Ferrari.
or Ferrari, who I mean, and like Ferrari, like they have the ability, but it
Right.
seems that there's
No,
these little mistakes where they're not in tune with their car.
no,
And
for
so
sure.
to have Fernando Alonso
Yeah.
say, I know I can do this, I have a car that can do this,
Yeah. Well,
it's
and
only a
and
matter of
and
time.
the thing is it's not just it's not just the driver,
Right.
because we see Lance Stroll actually performing pretty well also. But I wonder, like, I don't know, let's chat about this for a second. Here's my proposition, my question.
Hmm.
Um, when a driver really starts performing well, I wonder how it affects the team and the engineers to say, you know what, we're going to work extra hard to get this car up to the level it needs to be
Right.
to provide this driver. I just
Right.
wonder, like, the
Right.
energy,
Right.
like in any team sport, because that's what
Sure.
F1 is. Like, if you lose that energy as a team, getting the W, getting the win is really hard. hard to stay like keep your head in the game. So when you are a Haas or a Williams, like
Right.
there's just a bit of a this kind of sucks. But I wonder how much that's affecting Aston Martin and their overall team and their attitude saying,
Yeah.
hey, we're gonna go the extra mile. What do you think?
I think morale for sure.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
think these are some of the best technical technically skilled engineers in the world that are working for these teams. Um, so I don't know if necessarily like their skill level goes up, but I do think the morale of the team, because it
Sure.
is a team sport. I remember, like remembering thinking back on when Kevin Magnussen got pole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And last year, and that was such an incredible moment for the team to be able to celebrate together and say, "Hey, we did this together as a team." They knew the next day they weren't going to win the race. Like that wasn't
Right.
a
Right.
reality, but to say, hey, like this is incredible. Our hard work is paying off. And so I think that maybe is more of a mindset than, oh, I have to work harder. I think for Aston Martin, they've had such an infusion of development, right? Their entire new headquarters are being built, right? So there's money also
Mm-hmm.
to that end
True.
that is
True.
that is making them where they are. Um, I don't think that it's like these engineers are saying like, "Oh, I'm not working as hard because our team's not as good." Ferrari is not doing great right now. Ferrari is some of the best technical engineers in the world.
For sure.
McLaren has some of the best technical development in the world,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're not good right
Why
now.
in McLaren it's just heartbreak because I mean they'll perform well during practice and even through qualifying,
Right,
and unfortunately for Lando, Spanish Grand Prix, like to have
right,
have an incident on the opening lap that just sets you way back. You end up in a really
right,
good starting position,
right,
and then you have to go in and have your nose, your
right.
nose cone, that a wing changed, the front wing changed
So
out,
what,
and so
P3, right?
yeah,
P4,
yeah,
and then first lap
boom, all
flipped.
the way to the back. And I mean, you talk about a morale,
Yeah,
a degrading
yeah.
of morale, or just kind of suck the air out of the room a little bit. That was a bummer. And then, man, rain. It just seems like
Oh my
rain
goodness.
is rain is
Just
on
following them
tap.
around the world.
It really is. Even in Canada.
Yeah,
In fact, as we're recording today, FP1 is happening,
yeah,
and an 80% chance of rain. And
right.
so what? And then you and I, we both watched as much as we could of the 24 hours Le Mans, which
Yeah,
was
yeah. In
incredible.
France, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And hey, huge props to Ferrari, by the way.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
know Ferrari fans are
Absolutely.
heartbroken because they're going,
Absolutely.
how can we win in Le Mans
Absolutely.
and not an F1? But first time in 50 years that
It was
Ferrari
incredible.
has won, and they ran an amazing race. But yeah, it
Yeah,
started raining
Antonio
during the,
Giovinazzi, that was great.
yeah, former F1
Ex
driver.
F1 driver.
In fact, the whole grid in Le Mans, there was a ton of
Um,
drivers.
yeah, no,
So
that's great.
that was really cool
No,
to
to your point,
see.
the rain was it
Oh
was
my
epic.
gosh.
That was
And
crazy.
these cars are so powerful that just a
Right.
little bit of moisture on the track,
Yeah. The
and
spinning.
they're just spinning all over the
Yeah.
place. And
Yeah.
so I mean it makes for interesting qualifying and interesting racing in F1. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Canada.
Yeah. I'm really excited for Canada. Canada, I think, is such an enjoyment, at least from the fan side, to be able to watch.
Yeah.
There's certain races where you're like, oh yeah, this is cool, this is fun, this is an enjoyable race to watch. But there's races that come up where you're like, wow, this is an incredibly built track. It has a ton of history and it makes people make mistakes, right? We know the Wall of Champions, right?
I was just gonna bring that
It
up.
makes
Yep.
people make mistakes, and it's invigorating to watch
Yeah.
because we really don't know. Like we know, okay, Lewis Hamilton has won, equal on wins with Michael Schumacher on the amount of wins that they've done in Canada, 7 each. That's incredible. But now who knows going to win? It's probably not
Right.
going to be Lewis. Uh, he's going to try as much as he can. But I mean, do you remember last year when Lewis he had the little walk the little hike by himself because his car
Mm-hmm.
crashed out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think that's so exciting for this particular. I actually think of it kind of similar to, it's very similarly styled to even Australia, right? There's a
Right.
lake in the middle.
Right. Right.
Um, it's kind of a similar vibe,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think what's, there's these multiple corners that are so unique to this
Yeah.
track that don't
Very
exist anywhere else,
right.
that make it such a wonderful track to drive, or to watch. I love also when there's scenes where you look and there's the drivers and there's the trees, and it makes it feel like they're in the
Yeah.
middle of a forest.
Right.
And it's just exciting. It's just a really,
It's
really
kind
fun.
of Monza. Monza has that same kind of feel as
Yeah.
well. When the
Yeah.
helicopter, that's filming has to kind of get to the right angle because they
Right.
get lost in the trees. Spa is kind of that way as well.
Right.
No, I agree. Canada is it's a great
Hmm.
track. Wall of Champions. So for those of you who don't know, the final turn before coming down the start finish straight, it is the final turn. Yeah, they
Hmm.
there's just a history of drivers, championship drivers, just
Yep.
pushing a little too hard,
Yep.
and then come around that corner and they put it into the wall. It has
Hmm.
been the source of a lot of heartache and heartbreak for
Yes.
drivers and teams, and it's just one of the seriously technical elements.
Hmm.
The chicane
Yep.
uh, in Canada is a big thing. I know Hamilton and Vettel in the past have been at odds about that chicane because if you miss the breaking point, you kind of run through the grass and
Yep.
across that chicane and could potentially gain an advantage.
Hmm.
And there's always that like, oh well, I was off track. There was no advantage, and then it's up to the stewards to say
Right.
you have to give that place back. There's some really high speed sections to this track. I mean,
Hmm.
all F1, it's kind of ridiculous to say because all F1 races are high speed, but when you compare it to like Monaco, of course, which
Hmm.
isn't, they're not running as at higher throttle
Right.
percentage, for as much of the race. Canada gives a lot of options for that high
Hmm.
speed, for the DRS, but then some slower corners for some great overtaking opportunities.
Yeah.
And then if we throw rain into the mix,
It's gonna be exciting.
it'll be interesting. So coming into this weekend, Aston Martin supposedly has made some significant
Hmm.
changes to their
Hmm.
cars.
Yep.
And that can go either way, but they were
Yep.
already performing solidly. Any thoughts? Do you think they're gonna put it together this weekend and get another podium?
I think it's so hard because it's like, when you think about who's going to win the race, there's no doubt. It's like, oh, it's going to be Max, right? But when you think about that second place, that's really, really key right now because last race, Mercedes jumped Aston Martin in the championship. So they're ahead. They are on a run right now. And so
Right.
it's really interesting to like compare because I don't want to compare. Okay, Aston Martin said they're upgrading, but Mercedes has been doing better. So it's like I
Mm-hmm.
I think they're gonna try hard. The thing is with Mercedes is Mercedes has two excellent drivers. Aston Martin has one excellent and one good driver. Like Lance Stroll's great, but I'm sorry, like when compared,
Sure. Right.
they're
No, for
gonna
sure.
compete
Totally
higher at a
agree.
higher level, you
Right.
know. And so man, I really don't know. Like
No,
this
that's
track is, I don't know
and
who's going to be
and of
better.
course, even given their technical issues and their challenges, Ferrari is still in the
So
game.
fast,
And
so
it's
fast.
interesting that now you have Mercedes, Ferrari, and
Hmm.
Aston Martin because Red Bull, and Perez, we'll see. We'll see what kind of weekend he has. But of
Hmm.
course, with Verstappen, it's just kind of a runaway, at least for the drivers' championship. And of
Right.
course, the manufacturers is going to be it's going to just kind of follow suit. But you don't have as in years past when Mercedes
Right.
was dominating, you didn't, kind of the best of the rest there was such a big gap there.
Hmm.
And I think there's
Hmm.
more teams vying for that. So I think, yeah, Aston Martin, Mercedes, Ferrari, are going to be duking it out. Um, you
I think
know,
Mercedes and Aston Martin, I think they can go ahead of Ferrari. I
yeah.
think they're faster. I think they'll be
Hmm.
able to do that. Um, if I were to like guess, I think they'd be staggered. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be um, you know, like you have two Aston Martins and two Mercedes like next to each other.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like Fernando Alonso will be up and then Lewis Hamilton and then maybe like George Russell, and then right below him, like Lance Stroll, like they're gonna be
Right.
so
Okay.
close to each
So
other.
hold on though. In all
I
of
don't know.
this, you've got a couple of wild cards. We've
Right.
got Ocon, who podiumed in
Podium, yeah,
Monaco,
that was
right?
incredible.
Huge race for him. And I think one of the biggest developing drivers this season is Yuki Tsunoda. I think
Yeah.
he's I mean, he's not at the top of but he is consistently placing in the top 10. He's putting in good lap times in qualifying and practice.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think he's a little hot-headed, and I think he has to mature out of that. But I think we're seeing a great driver in the
Hmm.
making. And
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
you can't rule him out. I think there's so yeah, it's a very competitive pack. And what I love is that it's competitive kind of all the way down, even if you get down to the back where you're talking about Williams and Haas
Hmm.
and whoever
Hmm.
happens to, you know, get a penalty or, get a pit
Right.
start in
Right.
whatever. Um, there's a lot of aggressive racing throughout the pack. And I think even though the last few races, I've heard people say, well, they haven't been exciting, and we've talked about this already.
Yeah.
In other words, it's not exciting because no one's crashing or there's no red flags or safety
Right.
cars.
Right.
But the thing is as far as the quality of racing goes and the aggressiveness of the drivers,
Hmm.
we're seeing a lot of active racing,
Hmm.
and it's unfortunate thing with watching the race either live or on TV is you're only going to see what they show you, that there's
Right.
always activity on the track that you're not seeing. And a big track like Canada as well makes it even
Hmm.
all the more so.
Hmm.
And so um, but yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a mix. I'll just go ahead and give my predictions for the weekend. So I think, of course, Verstappen is gonna win. And it's just kind of, I think that's just gonna be the song we sing all season, unless
Yeah.
something catastrophic happens, unless there's a wreck.
Hmm.
It's unlikely that he's not gonna
Right.
finish
Right.
first. Um, I think I think we're gonna see Perez make a concerted effort this
All right.
weekend to
Yeah.
so I'm expecting Perez in a podium spot this weekend.
Hmm.
I'd love to see Alonso on the podium again,
Hmm.
but I don't think so. I think we're gonna see two Red Bulls and a Mercedes on the
Ooh, okay.
podium.
All
That's my
right.
prediction for this weekend.
Which Mercedes?
Probably Hamilton, if I had
Hmm.
to guess.
Hmm.
I'd
Yeah.
probably say Hamilton.
Okay.
In fact, I would say Red Bull first with Verstappen,
Right.
Hamilton second,
Ooh,
and
Paris
Paris
third.
third. That's my prediction for this weekend.
Mm, that's that's a juicy prediction. All right. All right. Um, okay. Yeah, this this is so interesting to now predict, because predictions usually are, okay, what could happen? What do you think is going to happen? And with something like, Max Verstappen, who has a 50-point lead over his competitor, the nearest person, which is Sergio Perez, of which no one ever has lost a championship, an F1 championship, after leading by 50 points. So it's
Right.
kind of like he's gonna get the championship like by summer break. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I
So
think everyone is just kind of resigned themselves to that. Like,
resigned to like
let's
Max
just
Verstappen.
just
Yeah.
give him the trophy and we're good to go. Okay, so if you
Um.
had a wild prediction for this weekend, what would it be?
Okay, Haas in the points.
Okay.
is my wild prediction.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Podium, Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, George Russell. That's my podium. That's my
Ooh.
podium. All right.
That's
That's my
juicier than
podium.
mine.
That's my podium. But my crazy one is
That's
I'm
not
gonna
your
say
crazy one. Wait,
no,
hold
no,
up.
no. That's my podium. That's my podium. That's my podium.
Okay.
My like wild prediction is that a Ferrari will finish outside of the points.
Oh, well, that's I don't know.
Or is that not that wild?
That it's that
Is that-
crazy.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Wild prediction: McLaren will finish in the points.
Oh, that okay.
That's a
That's a
crazy
good one.
prediction.
That's
That's
a
a
crazy prediction.
because they'll do a little swap route. McLaren will finish inside the points. Ferrari will finish outside the
Outside the
points,
points.
and there will be three different teams on the podium.
Okay.
Let's
Wait,
do.
what do you think? You gonna are we gonna see intermediates, wets this weekend? What do you think? How
I
did
don't know.
wait
I hope it's a Monaco style of
yeah.
where it's in the middle of the race. Those are always
Uh-huh.
the best type. The best type
Right.
of rain is when it's in
Yes.
the middle of the race. They don't know
Fully
it's coming.
agree.
You know,
Right.
Russia. Well, except for Lando not getting the win, but Russia when it just poured right at the
Right.
end, and then everything got scrambled. Chaos. I love
Right.
it.
Yeah,
Is it
well,
going to
and they're
happen?
they're
Probably
all
not.
watching the radar, trying to figure out
Right. You
do we
put
go
the guy with
intermediates,
the
do we go
hand out the
wet?
window, the hand out the that just
Oh,
I love all the technology in the world, and then they just stick their hand out to see if
okay,
it's raining.
wait, who was it? Was it
It
Russell
was
too?
Russell. It's
Oh,
raining. It's
it's
raining.
raining and it was sweat
Yeah,
on the inside of his visor. That is classic. That's absolutely classic. They're
and
going,
literally everybody's. I was watching that race. It was Catalonia, right? And I was like, oh, and then it was.
sweat. That is, oh my gosh. That is classic
Oh, that's
meme
oh my
material
goodness.
there.
It's just
Well,
wet.
it's gonna be a fun weekend. Great Father's Day weekend. So
Oh
happy
yes.
Father's Day to all
Happy
the dads.
Father's Day.
Thank you. Glad to be doing this with my son this week. So yeah, we're gonna enjoy this. We'll be back, like I
Hmm.
said, next week. Life has kind of settled down, lots of craziness happening in all three of our lives, lots of things going on. So Chad will be back with us next week with a race recap, and so we look forward to have
Yeah.
him. And then looking forward to some of our next episodes. We're also going to have some guests joining us, some friends and F1 fans, just throughout the rest of the season to get their viewpoints. Some of them are brand new to F1, and so it's fun to hear people's perspectives and their
Hmm.
thoughts on the
Hmm.
racing. And so, hey, thanks for following along. Thanks for listening. Um, like, subscribe, share this podcast, share the YouTube video. Let your friends know about it. The F1 starting grid. Great to be with you all. Have an enjoyable Father's Day and a great racing weekend. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.